Happy Lupercalia's Eve! It's Valentine's Day today, which means that today is a celebration of love and affection and capitalism all over the world, and tomorrow is the Lupercalia, the greatest purification festival in the city of Rome, which has nothing to do with Valentine's Day, but it's tomorrow and it's my favourite Roman festival, so let's talk about them both. Let's start with St Valentine's Day because it's Valentine's Day. Happy Valentines and Happy Valentines! And if you have been confused in the past about who the hell this Valentine guy is, you are not alone. St Valentine, that we celebrate on February the 14th, is pretty much solidly Valentine of Terni. Terni, which is here, is a city in Italy, as you can see. And they have a basilica, the San Valentino, and they have a part of town called San Valentino, in case you didn't realise when you got there that he's kind of a big deal. And he was a bishop and or priest in the 3rd century. And at that point, that was a little bit more of a flexible thing. But the general story from the most famous hagiography, the most famous story of his life. In case you're wondering, by the way, why I keep looking to the side, it's because I'm using a new camera and I'm just double checking that the focusing is working how I want it to, so don't worry about that. There's nothing over your shoulder, except that thing. What the hell is that thing? You should get that seen too. Valentine was, according to the most famous story, preaching, he was evangelizing, preaching Christianity in the 3rd century when he was arrested because Christians were being persecuted. And he eventually was released and started doing it again. And you might have heard the story that he was secretly marrying Christians. And he may well have been, if he'd been, proselytizing and evangelizing, he might well have been marrying Christians as well, just as part of that. But we don't know that for sure. And we'll talk about why later. He's then supposedly brought in by the emperor himself, Claudius Gothicus, the Goth Claudius. And Claudius II, Gothicus, with his lovely stubbly face on his coins, which is pretty rad, brings him in and says, look, you're an intelligent guy, you are clearly a learned scholar, why don't you convert to Roman paganism instead of being a Christian, and that way I don't have to kill you. And Valentine basically responds with, well, why don't you convert to Christianity, and that way you don't have to kill anyone ever again. So they killed him, and while he's in prison, his jailer, whose name I've forgotten, editing Jimmy has put it here, his daughter, the jailer's daughter, Julia, who is blind, comes along, and Valentine cures her, miraculously, literally, as a miracle, cures her blindness, and then writes her a note to prove that he's cured her. And according to a later, much, much later embellishment on the story, he signs it, Your Valentine. And that is, where the tradition of you call yourself somebody's Valentine comes from. And that's it. That's St. Valentine of Terni. There's also St. Valentine of Genoa, who was another Christian martyr. And there is St. Valentine of Rome, who didn't exist, because St. Valentine of Rome is St. Valentine of Terni. The stuff that happened with the emperor happened in Rome, which is why Valentine of Terni is called Valentine of Rome. As far as I can tell, it's a bit confusing, a lot of it's made up. The romance side of things doesn't actually play a part until Chaucer writes a poem called The Parliament of Fowls, or The Parliament of Birds, and in that, it's 700 lines long, I am not going to read it out. In that, he talks about how the start of spring, St. Valentine's Day, is when the birds, the male birds, seek their mates. So it's the time for love and mating and rumpy-pumpy. And the problems with that are manifold, but mostly the problems are along the lines of the calendar, because at that point, of course, they were using the Julian calendar, and St. Valentine's Day was not on our February the 14th, it's on our February the 23rd, so it's next week. Also, the start of spring that he's talking about was later than February the 14th or 23rd, and also we think the poem was basically written to celebrate the engagement of Richard II to Anne of Bohemia. So, and that happened on St. Valentine's Day, which at that point, as we said, would have been February the 23rd. So, all completely wrong, basically, but it catches on. And In the 16th and 17th century, we have love poetry where people are signing it your Valentine, and that's not just in English. We have French ones as well. We have them from all over Europe. And this idea of St Valentine's Day being this day of lovers really starts to take hold. It appears in Shakespeare, it's in Hamlet, and by the late 18th century, you actually have books of poems and verses for men to send to their girlfriends on Valentine's Day if they're too crap at poetry to think up their own romantic poems. So, like, are you bad at poetry? Do you want to impress your girlfriend? It's like the 18th century equivalent to the petrol station flower bouquet. Like, crap, I forgot to write a poem for my lady that I'm courting. Oh no, what will I do? Aha, I have this book. And I love that. Then in the 19th century, obviously, industrialisation happens, commercialisation happens, and now it's the Hallmark holiday that we all know and love. But effectively, it's been more of a folk festival. It's been more of a romantic folk festival than a religious festival for like nearly 700 years now, since Chaucer, basically, right? So it's not really about celebrating a martyred Christian at all, ever, really. It's now St Valentine's Day because he is the patron saint of lovers, because decisions were made long ago in the past. And this is the problem with liturgical calendars always being chopped and changed, and the sort of the meanings behind saints being changed depending on which synod is deciding what in which century. And now, I think, in Roman Catholicism, February the 14th isn't St Valentine anymore. I think it's St Cyril and St Methodius, or somebody like that. Practicing Roman Catholics, please correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, that's it. And then the day after that is the Lupercalia, which is nothing to do with Valentine's Day, but let's talk about it anyway. So the Lupercalia was and is a very important festival. In Rome, it comes, we think the word Lupercalia comes from the Latin lupus, meaning wolf, because it's partly to do with Romulus and Remus, legendary founders of Rome who were brought up by a she-wolf in the Lupercal cave on the Palentine hill in Rome. And that is where the festival took place. And you have the Luperci, who are the priests, who troop up to the cave, and there are two colleges of priests of the Lupercalia, and they are men aged between about 20 and 40. They troop up to the cave, offerings are made, including oatcakes, yum yum, yum yum, oatcakes, and then an animal sacrifice is made, and it was a male goat, or goats, and a dog. The blood, you dip the sacrificial knife into the blood of the animal, and you anoint the priest's foreheads with it. Once you've done that, you take some wool, either unspun or a cloth, we're not sure really, dip it in some milk, and you ceremonially and symbolically wipe off the blood with the milk to purify it. The milk probably representing the she-wolf's milk. It's a fertility festival as well as a purification festival, so obviously milk, breastfeeding, all of that kind of stuff. The symbolism is all there. At which point you're meant to laugh. Ha ha! I am purified! I am ready, I'm rebirth, and all of that. And you then have a feast. This is very common in ancient religions and in modern religions where animal sacrifices are made. You very often at the altar will do the sacrifice. Once the meat has symbolically gone up to the gods, you need to do something with the actual flesh. So what do you do with it? You chuck it on the barbie, everybody has a great scran. Once everybody's had a good scran, two of the priests are selected, they strip naked, then you take the skin from the goats, cut it into thongs, and these thongs form a whip called a februar. And the februar is where we get the name of the month, February. And the priests would then run around the hill, stark bollock naked, and whip people with hairy goat whips. And the hairy goat whips would be used on people, and apparently pregnant women would stand in front of the priests on purpose to get whipped by it. According to one source, one commenter from the period, from ancient Rome, like school children putting their hands out to be slapped. So you know when you run into the wrestling ring and you put your hands out and the wrestler slaps the hands of the people in the audience as he goes down? They were doing that 2,000 years ago, apparently. So the whip is obviously meant to ritually purify you, so if you're having trouble conceiving, you'll get pregnant, and if you are pregnant, it will ritually purify you, increase fertility, and give you an easier, safer labour, because giving birth was a dangerous occupation in those days. Then the priests would go back, put their clothes back on, and, because it's ancient Rome, probably get hammered on wine. They were wine drunk a lot of the time. This was a super popular festival, and it spread from Rome to other parts of the empire. It was done in Gaul, it was probably done in Britannia, and it actually lasted after 391, when Christianization took over and non-Christian festivals were banned. People were still doing the Lupercalia festival into the 5th century. Beg your pardon. Still a bit rough. And it actually survives into the modern day via, again, Shakespeare. Julius Caesar starts at the Lupercalia, because in 44 BC we have an account of Julius Caesar at the Lupercalia being offered a golden diadem and refusing it. He's not an emperor, he is Caesar. And we get that moment in Julius Caesar, the play. The modern Church of Satan, the Satanic Temple, actually celebrates the Lupercalia today in a slightly different form. So if we have any practicing Satanists in the subscriber list, or who are watching this, who would like to give us any details on how it works today in the modern Satanist context, that would be really interesting. So there we go. Share and share alike. And it has nothing to do with St Valentine. It has absolutely nothing to do with St Valentine. This isn't a situation where a Christian celebration is trying to take over from a pagan celebration. It does seem that Valentine was martyred possibly in February, and it's not really anything to do with it. Sorry, I know a lot of people want it to be, but it's really not. There's no evidence for it. People have strenuously argued that it's something to do with Valentine's Day, or Valentine's Day is meant to be the Lupercalia, but it's really not. It's just not. But that's no excuse for you not to get that bouquet of flowers from the petrol station, fight a man to death over the last box of chocolates in the shop, and then give a treat, a present, a card, or a poem from a late 18th century book of poetry for bad men to your loved one today. So happy Valentine's Day, everybody. I love all of you. This is a celebration of love, a folk celebration of love. I love all of you involved in the channel, all my subscribers, all my patrons, all the people who donate to my coffee fund, all the people who watch and share and like and subscribe, all of my fellow YouTubers who've helped me out along the way so far, and you're all amazing, and I'm very lucky to have you all as part of the zany existence that is my life on YouTube. So thank you very much. Diolch o'r galon, as we say in Welsh. Thank you from the heart. I hope you enjoyed this. I certainly enjoyed it. Go and get whipped naked around the hill. Don't do that. And I will see you next time. Tan tro nesa. Till next time. Hwyl fawr. Bye-bye. Get naked, get whipped, get naked, get whipped, get naked, get whipped. Lupercalia, get whipped, get naked, get whipped, get naked, get whipped. Lupercalia. Oh, I'm sober. Yaki sober.